Chessman Dan, playing chess every day until the senseless stick-beating violence is eradicated. So, with the London system, I start off with d4, d5, bishop b4, bishop b5. Studying openings is really important because within a couple moves of how your opponent responds, especially if you play as white, you could kind of know what your opponent's trying to do and you could adapt. The worst thing you could do, from my personal experience, just trying to learn an opening and playing openings, is just blindly playing the main line of the opening without adapting to your opponent, right? Because if you go to any YouTube video and you type in an opening, for example, the Caro-Kann, there's different versions of the Caro-Kann depending on how your opponent responds to your moves. Same applies to the London system. Here, my opponent going d4, d5, d4, d5, bishop b4, bishop b5. They're mirroring me. They're mirroring the London system. It's a variation of the Giovanni London system, and I need to know how to respond. Here, I move knight to c4. Knight to c4 is probably the best because with the intent of moving my knight to c3, and then we're changing up the system to that of a Queen's Gambit style approach. However, for those watching Malini Weenie, I mentioned in a previous video that in this, I got to be very mindful of one specific move, right? And that move is bishop takes b3. If my opponent were to go here, and I do not develop my knight, I'm defeating the purpose of kicking out my pawn to c4. So if I decide to move this knight to f3, my opponent now takes, right? It seems like an inaccuracy. However, because I could take with the rook. But then if my opponent responds here, move his knights out, and then I decide to move my pawn out. Yeah, now we're in a lot of trouble, right? In the previous episodes, if let's just say I move my knight out and my opponent checks, this isn't a problem because I could easily block, right? Not an issue at all. However, if I fail to develop that knight, right, and allow my opponent to take, and then we do a few exchanges, yeah, now we're in a lot of problems. Because then I could go here, my opponent starts developing. If I decided to take, yeah, now we're in a lot of trouble. Why are we in a lot of trouble? Right, so let's say he kicks this out. Now I'm losing the game, right? I can't take with the king, my opponent will take with the queen, and now we're losing the game. So, this is why I think it's very important for anyone opening and learning an opening, and I'm applying specifically to myself, to thoroughly study and understand all the moves, right? What seems mindless, what seems, let's just go back. What seems pointless, right? You think, oh, move orders don't really matter. Well, move orders matter a lot. If I develop this knight instead of the previous knight, I could walk into losing my queen and then end up losing the game. And regardless, this is not how the game went. I just kind of want to show, move orders do matter. And you always gotta, while you are trying to respond with what your opponent does, it is very important that you always pay attention and monitor black's moves. Here, instead of my opponent decides to take on c4, I block with c3. The idea being is my next move, I'm gonna open up my bishop. Here, my opponent does c6. Really dumb move, because now he has double pawns. I defend my bishop and knight. He moves out his pawn e6, and then I take. I've been in this position before. I think I'm winning. If we go to the evaluation board, 0.65 advantage for white. Not that bad, but if you look at what's developed, 2 bishops, a knight, versus 1 bishop and 2 pawns. And he blocked his knight, moving his pawn to c6. Here, my opponent decides to pin me. I'm not worried about this at all. I defend with my knight to e2. My opponent moves his bishop pawn to b5. The idea being he's trying to move my bishop out the way. I just move my bishop to 3, a5, a3. Here, I think the best, so I move my pawn a3 to kick out his bishop. The best move in this position would have been, if I open up the evaluation board, is to move my, actually, I guess not here. I guess we go back a few positions ago, would have been So if I just would have gone regardless, so he goes here. I guess not. I was remembering, I must have been thinking of another game. Regardless, we're gonna keep going. Moving my pawn a3 is trying to kick out the bishop. He takes, I take. Very important to have my knights defending each other, especially in this variation of the London system. My opponent goes pawn a4, trying to take out my bishop. I could easily move it. My opponent goes knight to a6. Okay, this is where it would have been the best move. I take with the bishop, but the best move would have been here. That being, the bishop has to move because it's defended by the, if you were to take, I could either, it's defended by two things. I could have taken here. Or I think the best one would have been taken with the knight. Regardless, I didn't do that. I decided to take the bishop. The idea being is I like my position. I'm just going to simplify the board. And now it opens up the e file. So that was kind of my idea. The e file is a semi-open. And if I remember correctly, semi-open. When a file is open or closed, it's just referring to how many pieces, how many pawns are in each file. And since there's only one pawn, this is the e file is semi-open. Here at castle, my opponent goes pawn to c5. I respond with d5, and you're gonna see here, I think I did a decent job at using a pawn to break through the blockade. Here, I move my pawn out to d5, and my opponent can't take because it is defended by both the knight and the queen. So if he were to go here, I would just take, right? So my pawn responds pawn f6. I take with bishop knight to d5 because that's just a free pawn. Just free pawn. My opponent goes e7, knight e7, putting pressure on that pawn. However, it's really dumb because what I do now, I move my pawn to c6. d6, excuse me. This is a very strong pawn. And why is that? Because my pawn has broken through my opponent's ranks and is defended by my knight, my bishop, and my queen. A really strong pawn, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on my opponent. And if we go up to the evaluation board, I believe the material plus 5 points, over 5 points of material advantage. My opponent does something dumb. I don't know what he's thinking. He here goes knight to d5, which is what hangs his knight, and I win the game. He resigns. The moral of the story is, at least in this game, is that my studying is working. I've been getting better as white. I'm losing less often when I'm using the London system. I still lose, right? I'm still not perfect at it, but my labor is yielding fruit. However, I still need to slow down my games and focus more on studying. I'm at such a low elo that it probably benefits me more to study than to just it's better to study and play less games than to just spam games. But with that being said, thanks for watching.